Have you ever driven past a place that made you slow down for no reason? Not because of a sign, not because of danger, just a feeling. Like the air changed, like time moved differently there. America is full of these spots, places we left behind, not always because we wanted to, sometimes because we had to, sometimes because something strange happened, something quiet, something no one really talks about at dinner parties. This isn't a ghost story video. No rattling chains, no shadow figures, just real places with real stories that happen to be a little off. We're visiting 8 of them today. Not the famous ghost towns you've seen on postcards, the ones with quieter mysteries, the kind that stick with you after you leave. Let's start where the ground itself turned against the people who lived there. Number 1. Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's 1962 in Centralia, Pennsylvania, a small town in the coal country. Nothing fancy, just rows of simple homes, a couple of churches, a main street where folks knew each other's names. Someone, no one agrees who, set a fire in the town landfill. Standard practice back then. Burn the trash, move on.
Huh?
But underneath Centralia wasn't just dirt. It was a maze, a honeycomb of old coal mines stretching for miles beneath the streets. And that little fire, it found a seam, a path, and it kept going. Down there, out of sight. For weeks, nothing seemed wrong. Then months, then years. First, the snow melted early on certain patches of lawn in winter. Strange, but not alarming. Then basement walls grew warm to the touch. Then steam started rising from cracks in the pavement, like the town was breathing. By the 1980s, the earth had turned against them completely. Sinkholes opened without warning. One nearly swallowed a 12-year-old boy whole. He grabbed a tree root just in time. The air in some homes smelled like sulfur, like rotten eggs, because it was. Poisonous gas seeped up through floorboards. The government offered buyouts. Most people took the money and left. Who could blame them? Today, Centralia is mostly empty, but the fire, it's still burning. Drive through on Route 61 and you'll see steam rising from the woods beside the road. In winter, the snow melts in perfect circles around invisible vents. The pavement buckles in slow motion. You can stand there and feel the warmth coming up through your shoes. It's not dramatic. No explosions, no smoke clouds, just a quiet, patient heat, a fire that started by accident and decided it wasn't done yet. 80 years in, maybe 250 more to go. The strangest part isn't the fire itself, it's how ordinary it all feels up top. A quiet road, empty driveways, and the ground humming softly beneath your feet, like it's waiting for something. Number 2. Southern California. Head west now to Southern California, to a place that shouldn't exist at all. The Salton Sea was born by mistake in 1905. An irrigation canal broke. The Colorado River changed course without asking permission. For 2 years, it poured into a dry lake bed in the desert. No one stopped it. No one could. When the water finally settled, it left behind a sea, 60 miles long, accidental, salty, surrounded by sand. And for a while, people loved it. In the 1950s and 60s, this was a resort destination. Frank Sinatra came, beach parties happened, speedboats cut across the water. Developers built marinas, hotels, whole neighborhoods with names like Salton City and Bombay Beach. Postcards showed happy families in swimsuits against a desert backdrop. It felt like a secret paradise. But the Salton Sea had a problem. It has no outlet. Water flows in, nothing flows out. So the salt stayed and built up and built up. By the 1970s, the fish started dying. Not slowly, all at once, millions of them, washing ashore in thick, rotting piles. The smell could hit you miles away. The resorts emptied fast. Today, Bombay Beach looks like a dream half remembered.
Small houses with porches facing the water. Except the water line has pulled back. Now there's 100 yards of cracked mud between the homes and the sea. Boats sit on dry land, tilted on their sides. Not sunk, just stranded. Artists moved in later. They painted the skeletons of old trailers, built sculptures from junk found along the shore. It's not sad here anymore. Not exactly. It's quiet, surreal. Like someone started building a beach town, then forgot the beach part. The strangeness isn't in the decay, it's in the origin. A whole ecosystem, towns, wildlife, vacation memories, built around a mistake. And no one really knows how it ends. The sea keeps shrinking, the salt keeps rising, and the desert waits patiently to take it all back.
Number 3. Oklahoma. The town of Picher. This one didn't fail because of fire or water. It failed because of what was underneath. And what was underneath was holes. For most of the 20th century, Picher was a boom town. Lead and zinc mining made families rich. The mines tunneled deep under the entire area. They pulled out millions of tons of ore and left behind a Swiss cheese landscape no one could see. On the surface, normal life. Schools, baseball fields, movie theaters, kids played in yards. No one thought much about the giant white hills rising between neighborhoods. They called them chat piles, just leftover rock from mining. Kids even sledded down them in winter. No one knew those chat piles were full of lead, or that the ground beneath the elementary school was honeycombed with tunnels, some of them 80 years old, unsupported. Then the sinkholes started. Not little dips in the lawn, big ones. A house would settle overnight. A road would crack down the middle. The earth just gave up. Worse came later. Doctors noticed something. Kids in Picher had lead levels in their blood 3 times the national average. Learning disabilities spiked. The chat piles weren't harmless, they were poison, and the wind carried fine dust right into open windows. The government stepped in, declared it uninhabitable, offered buyouts. By 2009, the school closed, the post office closed, the last residents left. Today, Picher is a ghost town with a warning sign at the city limits: danger, unstable ground. Drive through and you'll see empty streets, a baseball field with bleachers still standing. But look closer. The ground near the old mines is fenced off, not for show. Step in the wrong spot and the earth might not hold you. The strangeness here isn't spooky, it's practical. A town built on a foundation that was never meant to last, and the quiet admission that sometimes the ground beneath your feet isn't as solid as you think.
Number 4. Missouri, Times Beach. This town died because of a dirt road and a man with a used oil truck. It was the early 1970s. Times Beach was a small working-class community along Route 66. Charming in its way, but the streets were gravel, dusty in summer, muddy in rain. So the town hired a man named Russell Bliss. He had a truck, he had oil. He'd spray it on dirt roads to keep the dust down. Cheap solution, worked well. What Bliss didn't tell them? His oil wasn't pure. It was mixed with industrial waste, specifically dioxin, one of the most toxic substances known to humans. He'd been paid to get rid of it. Spraying it on roads seemed efficient. For years, nothing seemed wrong. Kids rode bikes on the oiled streets, families walked their dogs, the dust stayed down, everyone was happy. Then the EPA started testing. After a flood in 1982, they checked the soil. The numbers came back impossible to ignore. Dioxin levels were off the charts. This wasn't just dirty, it was dangerous. Long-term exposure meant cancer risks, birth defects, nerve damage. The decision was made fast. Too contaminated to clean. The entire town would be bought out, bulldozed, buried. Residents had to leave everything, not just homes, photo albums, furniture, toys, all of it potentially toxic. They packed what they could carry and never looked back. Today, there is no Times Beach. The land was scraped clean, covered with clean soil, turned into a state park. You can walk trails there now, have a picnic, never knowing you're standing on a ghost town sealed 6 feet underground. The strangeness isn't dramatic, it's bureaucratic. A town erased not by fire or storm, but by a clipboard, a signature, a quiet decision made in an office far away, and the unsettling thought that sometimes the most dangerous things look perfectly ordinary.
Number 5. New York City. New York City, but not the New York you know. Take a boat north from Manhattan, past the Bronx, into the East River, and you'll find it. North Brother Island. 20 acres of trees and ruins. No bridges, no ferries for tourists, just silence. This island wasn't always quiet. For nearly a century, it served one purpose: keeping sick people away from everyone else. In the 1880s, it became a quarantine hospital. Smallpox patients came here, typhoid patients, anyone with a disease the city feared. They arrived by boat, stayed until they recovered, or didn't. One patient became famous, Mary Mallon. You might know her as Typhoid Mary, a cook who spread typhoid fever without ever getting sick herself. Authorities brought her here in 1907. She lived alone in a cottage on the island for 3 years before promising not to cook again. She broke that promise. They brought her back in 1915. This time, she stayed for 23 years until she died, alone. Later, the island became a rehab center for teenage drug users, then a housing project for war veterans. Each chapter ended the same way, quietly abandoned. Today, trees grow through hospital floors, porches sag into the earth, deer wander streets that haven't seen cars in 60 years. The city owns it, but no one tends to it. Nature is slowly pulling the buildings apart, board by board. Stand on the shore of the Bronx and look across. You can see the island's outline, green, still, while planes roar into LaGuardia a mile away. 8 million people live within sight of this place. None of them can visit. The strangeness isn't in the ghosts people imagine. It's in the proximity. A pocket of absolute quiet, surrounded by the noisiest city in America. A place built to hold what we fear, now holding only memories and trees. Number 6. Alaska, the Wrangell Mountains. Fly over this part of the world and you'll see mostly wilderness, glaciers, rivers, forests that stretch for days without a road. But if you know where to look, there's a splash of color. Red roofs against gray rock, a town that shouldn't be there. Kennecott. It wasn't built for scenery, it was built for copper. In 1900, prospectors found one of the richest copper deposits ever discovered, almost pure ore. They carved a town into the side of a mountain, not at the base, on the slope itself. Houses stacked like stairs, a mill building so massive it looks like a factory dropped from the sky. For 30 years, Kennecott boomed. Electricity came early, telephones worked, the company store sold silk dresses. This wasn't a rough mining camp, it was a company town with ambition. Then the copper ran out. Not slowly, suddenly. In 1938, the company announced closure. Trains ran for 2 weeks straight, hauling out machinery, furniture, anything valuable. Then the last train left, and no train ever came back. People think Alaska's cold preserved Kennecott. Not really. The dry mountain air did. Step inside the mill building and it feels like yesterday. Wooden desks hold rusted pens.
calendars still hang on walls, showing 1938. Copper stains bloom across floors like abstract art. But here's what gets you: the silence. Not peaceful silence, heavy silence. The kind that comes after industry stops. No hum of machines, no voices, just wind moving through broken windows. Hike up the trail behind town and you'll find the mines themselves. Dark openings in the rock face. You can stand at the entrance and feel cold air moving out, like the mountain is still breathing. Kennecott wasn't abandoned because of disaster. No fire, no poison. It left for the simplest reason of all. The reason it existed disappeared. And the strangeness lies in how complete the departure was. Not a soul remained, not a light stayed on. Just a perfect snapshot of a life that ended on a Tuesday afternoon in 1938.
Number 7. North Dakota. The plains stretch flat in every direction. Wheat fields, empty sky. Then something rises. Not a hill, a structure. Circular, white, like a giant satellite dish aimed at the clouds. This is one of America's forgotten Cold War outposts, part of a network called the D-Line, the Distant Early Warning System, built in the 1950s to spot Soviet bombers coming over the North Pole. This particular station was active for barely 20 years. Technology moved faster than concrete could settle. Satellites made these dishes obsolete. The military packed up, locked the gates, left. But they didn't tear it down. Why bother? It was cheaper to just walk away. Today, the fence is rusted through. The door hangs open. Step inside, and the first thing you notice is the smell. Not decay, not mildew, just dust. Decades of it, settled on control panels, on swivel chairs still facing radar screens, on coffee mugs left in the break room. The strangeness here isn't about death or danger. It's about purpose. Every bolt, every wire, every logbook entry was meant for one thing: watching for the end of the world. And then, the world didn't end. The threat changed shape, and these men and women just went home, left their vigil behind. Sunlight cuts through broken windows now, illuminates dust motes dancing above a map of the Arctic Circle. Someone once sat here, alert, watching for blips that never came. Now birds nest in the rafters. The radar dish outside gathers rainwater in its center, a perfect circle of sky reflected back at itself. We built places like this all across the northern tier, quiet sentinels waiting for a war that stayed quiet. And the real mystery isn't what happened here, it's how easily we walked away when the fear passed, leaving behind rooms full of intention, and no one to intend anything anymore.
Number 8. Arkansas, the Ozark Mountains. Tucked in the woods here is a place built on a comic strip. Seriously.
What?
In the late 1960s, investors had an idea. Why not build a theme park around Lil Abner, the popular comic about hillbillies in a fictional town called Dogpatch USA? They bought land, hired architects, even got permission from the comic's creator. They built it exactly as drawn. Crooked shacks on stilts, a general store with a false front, a Skunk Hollow exhibit. Actors played characters from the strip: Earthquake Magoon, Daisy May, wandering the paths all day. Bluegrass music played from hidden speakers. For a few years, it worked. Families came, kids met the characters, rode the rickety roller coaster, ate corn dogs under hand-painted signs. But America changed fast. The 1970s brought gas shortages, recession, and honestly, the Lil Abner comic was fading from public memory. Kids didn't know who these characters were anymore. They just saw old men in overalls telling jokes that didn't land. Attendance dropped.
The park added desperate attractions, a water park, a wildlife exhibit, to stay relevant. It didn't work. By 1993, the gates closed for good. Today, Dogpatch is a skeleton. The main street remains. Buildings sag but stand. The roller coaster track cuts through trees that have grown up around it. Paint peels in long curls. You can still read Daisy Mae's Diner on a window, though the glass behind it is gone. The strangeness isn't spooky, it's cultural. A place built on nostalgia for a time that wasn't even real to begin with. A fictional town made physical, then abandoned when the joke stopped being funny. Stand in the center of that empty main street and you can almost hear it. Not ghosts, echoes. The tinny sound of a calliope, children's laughter, the creak of a screen door that hasn't swung in 30 years. A monument to a bet that America would always love the same stories, and the quiet proof that we don't.
8 places. 8 strange stories. None of them ended with a bang. No disasters caught on film. No famous tragedies. Just slow departures. Quiet decisions. The ground getting too hot. The water getting too salty. The purpose running out. We like to think of abandonment as dramatic, as failure. But sometimes it's just practical. A town outlives its reason. A building serves its time. We move on, not with anger, not with ceremony, just with keys left on a counter and a door that never quite latched shut behind us. These places aren't sad, not really. They're honest. They show us what happens when the story changes, when the world moves forward and leaves a few rooms behind, still furnished, still waiting, for no one in particular. Maybe that's why we're drawn to them, not for scares, but for perspective, to stand in a place time forgot and remember, everything has a season, even towns, even roads, even reasons for being. So here's a question to carry with you. What will be left of your town in 100 years? Not the big monuments, not City Hall or the mall, but the quiet spots. The diner where everyone knows your order. The park bench you always sit on. The shortcut through the alley that saves 2 minutes on your walk home. Will those places still make sense to someone who comes after? Or will they stand empty, beautifully, strangely empty, with stories no one left behind to tell? If any of these places stuck with you, if you visited a forgotten spot yourself, tell us in the comments. We read every one. And if you'd like to wander with us again next time, well, you know what to do. Thanks for walking through these quiet places with me today.